Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the lesson you read, People of the Southwest. I'm just going to summarize a little bit what you see here. The first group that you read about was the Pueblo farmers, very similar to the ancestral Pueblo that we read about a few lessons ago. And the people we're reading about in this lesson, whether it's the Pueblo and two groups of the Pueblo right here, the Hopi and Sunni right in the middle here, you read about. And then you also read about the Navajo, which are right here where that plus sign, the cross is there. And that we call the Four Corners because the four states come together and form four corners there. Excuse me. You read about the Hopi and the Sunni and other Pueblo groups. They also planted the three sisters, which remember are corn, maize, squash, and beans. And they had to figure out also how to irrigate their crops. They had to figure out how to get water to the crops. So they did that also. And they built their homes out of pueblos. They built their homes, which were called pueblos, out of adobe. And adobe, we learned a few lessons ago, is actually kind of like a clay, mud, straw mixture. So here you can see on this page is an example of what an adobe home looks like, where the Pueblos lived. So speaking of the Pueblos, wrong button, I want to show you some pictures of what the Pueblo house looked like. So here's a Pueblo. This is where the Pueblos lived. And this is a replica, so it's not really the clay material that they made them out of, but this is what the adobe would have looked like. Then next we have, this is from the inside of a Pueblo. So looking out. So this is like a courtyard in the middle of a building. So these mountains are on the outside of the building. And there you can see an example here. And then this next picture really shows it. This person here is coming from the outside in. So they would use these ladders on their buildings to get in. And then when they get inside, this part here you can see is where the doors are to get inside the Pueblos. They pull those ladders up if they don't want anybody else to get in. Then here, this is what a store of maize would look like. So they'd store maize inside their Pueblos. Then on this picture, these stones and rocks here are for grinding the corn down to a powder. And I'll show you some other pictures of what that looks like. So here is a better view of the stones they'd use. So they would put the maize on these larger rectangular shaped ones. Then using these smaller stones, they'd kind of rub it and grind the corn down and create this fine powder here, depending on the thickness that they want to use for cooking and other things like that. So here's a video of how that looks. Excuse me. So you can see real simple. Then it just grinds the corn down to one of those powders that I was showing you. This is inside the Pueblo home. They would not have had concrete floors. This is a museum that I'm in right now that has the concrete floor. And that square thing you saw where they had the fire, that's what it looks like with probably a clay pot inside of it for doing some cooking. And they also had bow and arrows for whether it's hunting small animals you might find in a desert climate, or also maybe if you have other nearby groups you have to defend yourselves with. So you might have some for combat purposes. Or you might have tools like this made out of stone. There's could be hammers, axes are made out of stone, sometimes weapons for battle. Okay. So that's a little bit more about the Pueblo. Then you also read about the Navajo, who started up in what are now by Alaska and Canada, and they moved down to settle where that cross was in the Four Corners. The Navajo also had to learn to adapt and how to farm in a desert climate. So they also had to irrigate their crops. Not only did they have the three sisters, they also had cotton, and they made cloth out of it. And you can see this girl in this picture is learning how to make a blanket. And this right down here in the bottom, this is the hogan. This is where they lived. So they'd take wood, sticks to make the frame, and then they'd compact like dirt, sod, which is a grass and soil combination on top to make that. We don't need to see that notification. The Iroquois also had sheep. That was another animal. They actually stole it from the Spaniards, so people from Spain, and they would from the sheep they would use the food, the wool from the sheep made into clothing, blanket, things like that. Another thing that the Iroquois and a lot of other Native American tribes are famous for is their jewelry. Last week, I shared with you a video about the turquoise jewelry. So that's another thing that the Navajo and other tribes are famous for. So after watching this video, please work on the questions and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.